So we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Official. Good afternoon, members of the MAG Management Committee. This meeting is now called to order officially. For those around the table, please turn on your microphone when speaking. For those participating via Zoom, please state your name when making a comment or asking a question. The MAG public input process allows members of the public to comment on items on today's agenda or items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction. If you would like to comment at today's meeting, please fill out a request to speak card located in the information table, on the information table in the hallway, and give it to MAG staff. If you parked in the garage, parking validations are available on the information table in the hallway as well. If you purchased a transit ticket to come to the meeting, please see staff for a ticket. Hearing assisted devices are also available from MAG staff, and we will now begin the meeting with a roll call of all members.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Management Committee. I will go down the list of members alphabetically. Please unmute and indicate if you are present. Patrick Banger.
Present.
Thank you. Jeff Barton.
Present.
Thank you. Jean Blackman.
Present.
Thank you. Miranda DeWitt as proxy for Chris Brady.
Present.
Thank you. And
Present.
thank you. Ron Corbin.
Present.
Thank you. Dan Cotterman.
Here.
Thank you. Henry Darwin.
Present.
Thank you. Philip Dorchester. Crystal Dykes.
Present.
Thank you. Carrie Dyrick.
Present.
Thank you. Stephen Erno.
Here.
Thank you. Bruce Gardner.
Present.
Thank you. Rachel Goodwin. Rick Horst. Suzanne Jones.
Present.
Thank you. Jeff Kulaga.
Present.
Thank you. Leo Liu.
Present.
Thank you. Russ Martin. Reyes Medrano. Alexis Tamron Kinsey as proxy for Jessica Mefford Miller.
Present.
Thank you. Jennifer Jack as proxy for Brian Myers.
Present.
Thank you. Gary Neath. Kevin Phelps. Jen Pokorski. Thank you. Matt Busby as proxy for Bryant Powell.
Present.
Thank you. Lynette Reed.
Present.
Thank you. Bill Murphy as proxy for Jim Thompson. Thank you. Director Toth.
Here.
Thank you. Catherine Valenzuela. Matthew Williams.
Present.
Thank you. Bob Wingenroth. Joshua Wright.
Present.
Thank you. Is there anyone that I missed? Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Our next item is a call to the audience. This is the opportunity for public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda or that are on the agenda for discussion and not for action. 15 minutes will be provided for the call to the audience agenda item unless the committee requests an exception to this limit. I believe I've got, correct me if I'm wrong, staff, I've got 4 cards for public comment.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. MAG also provides an opportunity for members of the public to submit written comments via the MAG website. We've recently updated our process to collect comments up to 2 hours prior to the meeting. Any comments received online will be shared with committee members and no longer read during the meeting. During this period of transition, we'll read any comments received prior to this change being made. Staff, do we have any written comments that need to be read?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have not received any public comments prior to the updated process for this or any other item on today's agenda.
Okay, thank you. So again, point of clarification.
For the request to speak, yes, this is a time for a 3-minute limit.
Donnie Bond. Yes, ma'am. Come to the podium up front.
It's on.
Yes.
Good afternoon and happy Flag Day. Managers, yesterday, the legislature passed a Proposition 400 extension. This should be very exciting progress for this body. I hope especially that those of you who represent suburban communities will encourage your mayors and councils to lobby Katie Hobbs to be reasonable and sign this extension. I don't think there should be a fear involved in having the extension proportioned out into 2 questions, and that only provides more choice and transparency for voters. The allocations in the bill passed provide for enough funding for freeways to expand the SR 30 in the West Valley, where I live, SR 51 in the Central Valley or in Central Phoenix, and the SR 24 completion in the East Valley. That is remarkably sound policy which will appeal to voters. At the end of the day, the future is very uncertain. But this is a bill that has certainty, and you could spend the next year diligently putting together a conforming plan with the further input from this body, the legislature, and the public. This is the right course of action at this point, and I hope you'll all do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bond. Next up, April Smith. April.
Okay. Good afternoon. MAG and this committee should call on Katie Hobbs to sign SB 1246 that passed out of the legislature yesterday so that the voters decide. I always hear from your guys and other transit enthusiasts that light rail, streetcar, and trolleys are popular. This despite barely anyone riding it, and the years of construction that destroys local businesses by cutting off access, and then even when completed, increasing congestion by the loss of lanes. But if you are as confident as you project in the popularity of public transit, let it go to a vote. Let people like me vote for freeways, roads, and buses without having to vote for light rail. That's real choice. I shouldn't be forced into approving billions for boondoggles that permanently transform to their detriment our cities in order to get funding for widening freeways and constructing new ones. MAG and Hobbs are trying to log roll us and foist your plan on us. The legislature's plan, the first to actually pass this year, gives us real choice and makes sure that revenue from a tax for transportation actually goes to transportation projects, not funding for California's style air quality mandates, active transportation, complete streets, and any other project with a flowery name used to conceal the fact that money intended for roads is actually being spent on projects that make driving less convenient. You should pump the brakes on your opposition to the legislative plan because it might be the best and only plan that gets the votes in the legislature. I'm proud of my lawmakers who worked hard, came together, and delivered a plan that really isn't far off from what you were asking for, except requiring a separate vote on light rail. You have been working on this for years, and instead of recognizing the need to truly compromise, I have watched you take to social media to insult the people we elected to make policy and protect our way of life. That's what they have done, and they have put an extension on Katie Hobbs' desk. Now it's up to you. Will you hold our roads hostage to get your rail lines, or will you let the voters decide? Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Thomas Simacek. Thomas.
Oh, yeah. Dear Chair and committee member, I would start by mentioning that Nikita Sergeyevich Khrushchev, the Soviet dictator in 50s and 60s, decided that Soviet citizens do not need cars because there will be a lot of cheap taxis which provide for all their transportation needs. Obviously, there were always people who would give him a ride, just like people would fly by private jets to global warming meetings. But the government provided transportation never really worked for average citizens. I don't have a private jet, nor during Khrushchev era, nor in any time ever. The only country without cars is now, guess what, North Korea. I escaped from communist Czechoslovakia and got the taste of such transportation. I just want to mention one joke. I was standing in a full streetcar on one foot and it wasn't even mine. That was, propagated that time. We are all different and it's impossible for the government to anticipate and provide for all their transportation needs. In Europe, the historical centers were built when there were no cars, for walking and for the horses. And so they make some sense in the downtowns of, Prague or Paris, Rome to have a walk-on zone. Otherwise, all the cities now are so big, it's just impossible to provide, cover the whole thing, and the little rural areas, how you can provide. Okay, so, the public transportation, biking and walking is a folly. And Phoenix is probably the worst example. We have, I am too old for biking. I give up my bike. And walking in 115 degrees is not really good, even for 15 minutes. And so I urge you to concentrate on helping the cars. Don't ban the cars, which are really the only way of transportation in Phoenix, the only practical way. And, throwing money on public transportation is a waste. And I think the best way is to alleviate bottlenecks and improve traffic patterns, widen roads, and so on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simacek. Next up, Diane Barker.
Good afternoon, Chairman Barton and MAG managers. It's my pleasure to be here, and I did bicycle, and I will be taking the train and the bus, and maybe I'll ride share. And guess what? It's a high ozone day. And I said to the gentleman, I'm really happy that the citizens are coming out because we do need to hear all sides. I don't agree with this last gentleman that, you can't be out even in the summer when it's hot because it's 20 degrees less in the shade. And we have created some shade. We are continuing. I actually came on this particular item to more of a public interest, and then I will speak on the consent agenda. But my girlfriend, who has never been on a bus, and when I was in college, she was just a baby. And I said, let's go to the zoo. And she says, oh, well, how do you do that? You want me to drive? I says, no. I says, you are a quarter of a block from the light rail. So we did go on light rail, and we changed it at Priest and ended up in the morning in the zoo. And we were hungry. So I had put forward pay for that. And so she said she'd buy breakfast, and we had a full breakfast with pancakes, and we walked. And we walked all over. Fortunately, the animals, lots of them weren't out because it is getting hotter, but we did see an awful lot. We had a ball. Now, Coming back, we took a different way. The number 3 bus, Van Buren, brand new bus, female driver who used to be a truck driver, excellent driver. Phoenix has really good training. I was trained as a bus driver, okay? But the problem here is we do cut out roads from transit or cars or whatever, is because this brand new bus was going on a terrible torn up road, Van Buren, and that's one of the oldest ones. It was a major wave coming into Phoenix, how we've let this go. This is getting into then your maintenance costs for the equipment. So we're all tied into this together. Now I just like to say thank you, manager, that he's put out the information that we need to hydrate, because every place that I've gone around, I see it happening. And I think that's beautiful that you are responding to public. Finally, is you can park your car and go on the light rail and go to Burton Bar, those that can, or send your kids that aren't in school right now, because we're having Summer Solace. That's Wednesday, June 21st. It's beautiful. It's on the 5th floor of Burton Bar at 11:30 to 1 p.m. And that is an asset. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barker. There are no more public comments. We move on to item number 4, the Executive Director's Report. Managing Director Ed Zerker will provide the report. Ed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to go through a couple things here that have been going on since the last time we met. First of all, the team that works in Human Services is working on this, as the Maricopa region is teaming up with the White House and U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness to participate in the All Inside, a first of its kind initiative to address unsheltered homelessness. Mesa Mayor John Giles and Maricopa County Board of Supervisors Chair Clint Hickman all helped launch that initiative, and MAG staff is participating in that as part of our entire Pathways Home effort. Next, in a different view, we had a Venezuelan delegation visit us here at MAG. The MAG staff met with the legislators and officials from Venezuela to discuss transparency and accountability in state and local government. The visit was organized as part of the U.S. State Department's International Visitor Leadership Program, which is a program designed to showcase American values, American governance, and American culture to leaders from around the world. In another aspect of MAG work, actually funded from Proposition 400 for the last 20 years, has been trash cleanup on our freeways. So very few people know that it is residents of Maricopa County who tax themselves in part to clean up trash on the freeways. In part, we don't have enough money to do the entirety of it, but we do supplement ADOT with some funding. And part of that is to promote traffic safety on something called Secure Your Load Day, which was an event held last week. And we had Chairman Jack Sellers of the Transportation Policy Committee was there, and thought it would be just interesting to take a minute or so and show a 12 News video about this that actually has a former Mesa employee as sort of the highlight of the program with his story.
A horrific accident almost 3 years ago nearly cost him his life. The culprit, road debris on one of the valley's busiest freeways.
Cody Devine is here with the important safety message from that Mesa police officer. Hey guys, yeah, it's a simple request. Officer Sean Stoddard is asking drivers to secure their loads to help prevent crashes like the one he experienced.
Good morning. My name's Sean Stoddard, and this is the car that I was in on August 11th of 2020.
This crash almost claimed his life nearly 3 years ago. Now, retired Mesa police officer Sean Stoddard faces each day as a gift.
I focus on gratitude. I feel blessed. I feel it's heartwarming to be alive.
On August 11th of 2020, Stoddard came across a ladder lying in the middle of US 60 near Greenfield Road. As he stopped his patrol car, a distracted driver behind him struck his car at full speed.
I wasn't able to walk or talk, I was in the wheelchair for a while, and they had to reteach me everything. This is to reteach me colors, shapes, numbers, letters, everything. And I'm still in therapy years later.
He spoke today at the launch of the Maricopa Association of Governments Secure Your Load campaign. The message: take a few extra seconds and make sure all items are secure. Since 2019, 22 people have been killed in Arizona because of debris on a highway. It's something that is personal to both Sean and his family.
We get a call from his wife saying he was in an accident and that he was unresponsive. And when I heard unresponsive, I thought we'd lost him.
The Maricopa Association of Government is making an appeal to lawmakers to allow voters to vote on a quarter-cent sales tax renewal that would continue to fund ADOT's efforts to keep debris out of the roadway. As for Sean, he is now heading up Archangel. It is a nonprofit that he started to benefit those in the military. And guys, from that video, it is hard to believe that this guy is still alive, but thank God.
Thank you. I want to commend our team, Kelly Taft and the communications group, for the work they did. Much of that footage that Channel 12 used came from MAG archives. Also thank Director Toth for ADOT participation. And actually that was an ADOT facility where they displayed the stuff that they pull off the freeways in just a week. It was unbelievable, the kind of stuff that gets pulled off the freeways. So events like this are really important in terms of keeping people safe. And just one other thing was interesting. He told us that it was just 3 days before this accident that Mesa had taken his police car, redone it to protect the gas tank and given it back to him. And if that had not been done, he probably would be dead because the car would have exploded. So it was, all sorts of angels looking out over this young man. But it's just another example of some really good work going on here at MAG. And kind of puts it all in perspective for us, doesn't it? The things we fight about and fuss about together. When you see that, you realize what really is meaningful in life. I do want to thank you all for the work you and your staff have done on Proposition 400, especially the managers. Thank you for your intergovernmental program staff who've been burning the late night and early morning oil, along with our MAG staff who've been working really hard at that. So the outcome has been disappointing to us, but we'll continue to work with the governor and the legislature to find solutions that work. But again, thank you to you and your staff who have been really working hard on this subject. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Zerker. Our next item is the approval of the consent agenda. Items 5A through 5J are on the consent agenda. Does any member of the committee have any questions or request a presentation on any of these items? Hearing and seeing none, prior to the approval of the consent agenda, we do have one comment from Ms. Barker who would like to speak on a few of the items on consent agenda. Ms. Barker?
Thank you again, Chairman Martin and MAG managers. I'll start off with 5A, which is the minute. And we did have a citizen that wrote in, and he very, very much was against a plan to support EPA, which he felt was very constrictive regulations. The guy's obviously wedded to his car. And I think that maybe he possibly misspoke the way that this is because they were talking about electric cars, and he didn't think that too much of that. But here it says, not all Arizonans can afford gas-powered cars. MAG is good about writing what a person says, so I don't think it's probably MAG, but it just in that particular statement, yes, gas cars are expensive. Electric are too, and this is what I'm saying. You want affordable housing? America has been built upon it's better if it's big. We've got to become an SUV thing. We are in our cars. Give me another road. Give me another gas. I'm not trying to be detrimental, but I'm trying to say what it is. Now, this also talk about Europe and how Europe turned into more of transit. I was in Europe in the 70s. So I happen to be involved in the travel business. And we went by car in Europe. And guess what? Both Rome and Paris were very dirty. I went back in the 80s and it had cleaned up more. And we didn't even get in a car. There was so much transit, various transit, and it worked. And so our thinking, we are victims of our thinking here, that we have to have big and affordable housing, all those big appliances. Some people don't even cook in their home anymore. And the appliances could be scaled down to Italian size, and we could make affordable housing near transit, near a library if you don't own a computer. Okay, so now I'm on to the other parts of the agenda. Conformity, today is an ozone. So now, and thank you, Meg, because guess what? My phone, I can't see all your tables, but what I do see is I'm looking at transit and you've cut down on some vehicles, which maybe not. Does anybody have an inventory of all of our transit vehicles of all the MAG area? I'd like to see that. I'd like to see if, in fact, if we're not doing it, how we could make trips more compatible and in vehicle size. And I see that the feds pay 4 to 5 times what our local share is in preventative maintenance. I hand it to Scottsdale. They've got some training involved in that. If that is training also for bus drivers, we need it. In the way that the equipment is being handled, are we going into ruining certain types of components because of lack of training? So it's all comprehensive here.
Thank you, Ms. Barker. We did receive one more card, Ms. Carol Steins. Ms. Steins?
Thank you. This comment was submitted online, but I found out that the process was changed for public comment today, and I want it to be read into the record, so that's why I'm here. The Prop 400 plan proposed by Mag and Katie Hobbs is unrealistic and does not align with what voters and taxpayers want and can't pass. It was dead a year ago when it was vetoed by Ducey, and it has been dead since. In fact, this has been stated numerous times during the session, but ignored, as Mag has said it will not support any legislation that does not enable you to implement your plan without any changes. At the same time, you're boasting about all of the changes and concessions you have made, but if the plan you support, Katie Hobbs' plan, includes these concessions, how does it not require you to change your plan? It's because the quote concessions weren't really concessions. Thankfully, for the vast majority of Maricopa County residents, you don't have the support or the votes for what you want, but the legislature does. And they just passed a plan that is better for taxpayers and respects voters by giving us a real choice on the ballot. Your plan pushes Vision Zero transit, road diets, and other anti-car measures. Truly, it's offensive to be using what voters are led to believe are transportation dollars to try to force a behavior change and get people out of their cars. The legislature's plan gives more money to freeways, as it should. Frankly, almost all the money should go to freeways. It also gives more money for roads and protects the money for them from being used to put in bike lanes or pedestrian paths. I heard MAG was considering control measures that include banning the sale of gas cars. With that in mind, I think the legislature's prohibition on gas car bans is not only warranted, but necessary. When looked at objectively, MAG has been inflexible, unreasonable, and are pushing a plan that no one actually wants. The legislature is unified. They got the votes and they put a plan on Hobbs' desk. Why doesn't MAG encourage Katie Hobbs to sign it so that, as you have repeatedly said, we can let the voters decide? Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing no more public comment, MAG staff, do we have any written comments for the items that were received prior to the updated process?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have not received any public comments prior to the updated process for this agenda item or any other agenda schedule.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve consent items 5A through 5J?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion has been properly moved and seconded. We've recently also changed the way committee members online will vote. Based on feedback from member agencies, we'll have those participating in the meeting online now take part in the voice vote by turning on their cameras and unmuting their audio. For those who cannot or do not want to turn on their cameras, we'll conduct a roll call vote. This will hopefully save time and maintain compliance with state law to accurately indicate how each member votes. Can I have a voice vote of those in this room and those online? Aye.
Aye.
Now, for members participating online, please turn on your cameras and unmute. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. Hearing none. Okay, now members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote. Thank you. Staff, can you take a roll call vote of the members participating virtually who did not participate in the voice vote?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Matthew Williams. Suzanne Jones. Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. We now move to item number 6. On January 30th, 2023, our good friend Eric Anderson announced his retirement as the MAG Executive Director after 40 years of service to the region in a variety of positions. Mr. Anderson began his service as an economist, working on projects that shaped the development of the region. In 1992, he led the Fiscal Services Unit at MAG to strengthen the financial foundation of the MAG Freeway Program. In 2000, he was hired as the MAG Transportation Director and led many critical efforts, such as the successful plan development of Proposition 400, passed by Maricopa County voters in 2004. In 2018, Mr. Anderson became the MAG Executive Director. He led the agency through a critical period that included navigating the pandemic and overseeing the development for 2050. Ways Home, the Regional Homeless Action Plan for local and tribal governments. With his upcoming retirement as of July, any additional comments from the members are welcome at this time. Anyone?
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Eric, that you're leaving us, but well-earned retirement, Eric. It's been a pleasure working with you through the years. And I remember when you stepped in when we had a void at Valley Metro. And so you've always stepped up in any way you've ever been asked to do so. And we greatly appreciate it and wish you the best of luck.
Eric, as I said in the previous meeting, an incredible partnership on behalf of ADOT. Really appreciate it. It's not always been easy, but we've always gotten through it in terms of developing what's best for the transportation system. Congratulations and enjoy the next chapter.
Thank you.
And Eric, I also want to echo Patrick's sentiments, jealousy. That is something that I definitely aspire to, retirement. But I haven't worked with you as much as some of the other folks at this table, but your name has been, uttered throughout City Hall for the whole time I've been there. And I want to thank you for all of the contributions that have benefited my home city of Phoenix. And again, thank you for everything that you've done for the region as well. And you've been a fixture here, and we respect and appreciate everything that you've done for us. So thank you on behalf of the city of Phoenix.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Wainwright.
Eric, on behalf of our mayor and council and the staff and the residents of the city of Surprise, we're grateful for everything that you've done for us, for all the times that you've come out to council meetings way out west, early morning meetings that we have. You've just given us our best, and we are better for you. So thank you very much, and best of luck in your retirement.
Thank you, Bob.
Anyone else? Anyone online or anyone else in the room would like to say anything to Mr. Anderson?
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Ginsburg?
Eric, one, I want to send our regards from Jessica, who could not be here today. She is representing Valley Metro at APTA. We have a token of our esteem we'd like to present to you at Regional Council reception.
next week, so she'll bring that. Personally, I want to thank you. I met you, and you may not remember this, 16 years ago. And I learned as a young chief of staff to a member of Congress, a spry 66-year-old freshman, former mayor of Tempe, Harry Mitchell, told me to listen to Eric and at the time, Dennis, because they'll teach you things. And you did teach me things. I learned about PM10 in that meeting. So thank you very much. I appreciate everything you've done for the region, for the state of Arizona, and in particular for Valley Metro when they needed you. Thank you.
Thank you. We would now like to present Mr. Anderson with this award to commemorate his 40 years of service to MAG in the region. I'd also like to give you an opportunity to speak, Eric, and to address the group.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the retirement blessings, if you will. I am looking forward to it. It's been a long career. My family, my wife Tina has been with me by my side for 40 plus years, and it's taught me to be a better person over those years. So I really extend everything I can to my family and my wife for being there for me. You all, the managers that I worked with over the years, the mayors, have really have been a great support for me personally, as well as the organization. And we couldn't accomplish what we have over the decades as an organization without the support of our member agencies. So thank you for all that. Once again, I think looking back, it's amazing what we've accomplished as an agency. And despite the rhetoric today that we're trying to get people out of their cars, it's just simply not true. We have built more lane miles of freeway in this valley than any other major metro area in the country. And we continue to do that under Momentum 2050, continues to emphasize investments throughout the region. But it's not just about making sure that people can get to work and back. It's not about the commuter solely. There are a lot of vulnerable users in our system. There are people that bike to work. We heard Ms. Barker talk about her use of public transportation system. We have people who can't afford cars. When I started my career here, I lived in Tempe, I worked at ADOT. We only had one car. I had to take the bus to work every day. And so once again, public transportation is extremely important. And, unfortunately, people look at very simplistically at transportation. Transportation is a system. It provides services to a wide range of constituents throughout the valley. And I think we always have to keep that in mind. When we started developing proposition, the Momentum 2050 plan, my charge to the staff was, remember, this is not about cars or trucks or things like that. This is about people, because it's fundamentally about the people in this region and providing a high quality of life for them in all aspects that we can within our roles and responsibilities in this region. And I think it's really important that we keep that in mind, that this is a transportation plan. It is not simplistic. It's very complicated. We have a great staff here at MAG. We're recognized as one of the best metropolitan planning organizations in the country. Our technical staff is among the best in the world. And I'm very proud of that. So thank you for your support. And I know Mr. Zucker shares a lot of the same philosophies, and will continue the success of this great agency. Thank you very much.
So staff, are we taking photos in the center here inside or up front?
Right, and if you can go inside, it would be great. Sure, yeah, why does everybody come in? That would be great. Go ahead, Eric.
In the middle? Right behind? Okay, right behind you. Thanks, Eric. Congratulations. Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, you want to stand up? All right, back to our regularly scheduled program. Item 7 will be presented by MAG Data Advisory Program Manager Scott Wilkin. This item is on the agenda for recommendation of approval. Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of Management Committee. For the record, I am also jealous of Eric retiring. Next slide, please. I'm here to talk about our long-range socioeconomic projections of population and employment. You might remember I was here a few months ago and giving you a preview of what was to come. A little background, the reason we do this is there's an executive order from 2011 that requires us every 3 to 4 years to create long-range socioeconomic projections. These projections go into the transportation model, air quality model, which are the primary functions of MAG, as you know, but we also use them to answer a lot of complex questions from MAG member agencies and other agencies, other stakeholders from around the region and around the state. Again, these are long-range projections. We also do annual projections of that year, but these are the long-range projections looking out from 2020 to 2060. Next slide. We have a lot of base data inputs. I'm not going to read all of these, but census is one of the critical ones. We get a lot of information from the cities and towns and the counties, especially group quarters information. They review our employer database. We get residential completions on a quarterly basis, which is critical. All of this stuff is incredibly important, and it all goes into the projections themselves. Next slide. The review process so far, we did what we call draft 0, which was basically a review of all of the inputs that we saw on the previous slide and more, just to make sure there wasn't anything we were missing, anything we were misinterpreting. We also wanted to talk about with our member agencies if there's any water or infrastructure constraints that we should know about. If anybody has a population threshold or population total that they don't think that they could ever support beyond that, that way we could tamp down the projections and make sure we don't go past that number. And for the most part, we didn't have anything we need to know about that. For draft 0, we had 22 meetings. We met with 64 people altogether. In February, we had a model workshop for our AZ Smart model. We had members of PopTac and some others who were interested to come and see how the sausage is made. We don't want this to be a black box. These are your projections, and we want to make sure everybody understands how they were created. Then we did draft 1. I should mention draft 0 and draft 1 were all conducted online and helped with the scheduling, and your staff was very flexible, but it was great that we didn't have to drive everywhere and try to find a time when everybody could be there. It was wonderful to do it online, and thanks to our IT staff for helping set that up, because that was invaluable. Those 25 meetings, 95 attendees, we got all kinds of information and feedback on the draft projections. We made a lot of changes based on that feedback, a lot of information that some developments that we needed to update. We got all that. We also met with State Land this time around, GPEC, ACA, and Arizona State University about their major campuses. And they all gave us incredible feedback and helped us hone in on the projections that would make the most sense to everybody. Then we did a brief draft 2 in May. We created an online viewer and sent it out to as many people as we thought would be interested. They could see the projections, the revised projections, and they could provide comments through the viewer, so that if we had to have a meeting, we could, but we ended up not having to have any meetings. We got 13 comments and over 80 adjustments to the final draft that you see in your packet today. We also work closely with Central Arizona governments on Pinal County projections. We do the projections for the entirety of the 2 counties, even the parts that are outside of the MAG planning area, and then we work with CAG to get the rest of Pinal County adopted. Next slide. On the screen, you can see the population and employment control totals. The pink line at the top is Maricopa County population. And then the next line down is Maricopa County employment. Then the bottom 2 are Pinal County population and Pinal County employment. These numbers come from the state demographer for the population and from University of Arizona for the employment projections. And we start at the county level, and then we use land use and development to distribute those population and employment to the parcel level, basically. And then we have the projections at the municipal level and lots of other geographies. Next slide. We're going to go through a series of maps here pretty quickly. This is the 2022 base population concentration. You can see the red is the highest concentration, the white is the lowest concentration, and then the blue, green, and yellow and orange are in between. Let's go to the next one to see 2030. And as you watch some of those colors, as we go to 2040, you can see how the population concentration is projected to change. So let's go to next one, 2040. Next one is 2050. And then lastly, 2060. Can we rewind that back to 2022 and just kind of go through that just so we can see that one more time? Because it actually kind of looks cool when you do it like that. So just go next one, next one, next one, next one. And so this is our horizon year 2060. The next slide will show the same thing for employment across the region. Here's 2022, which is our base year. Next one shows you 2030, then 2040, 2050, and 2060. And you want to rewind that, we'll do that one more time, and then we can move on to the important stuff. So there's 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. And then the last slide we have, we're requesting your recommendation to Regional Council for the socioeconomic projections and the resolution. Last week, PopTac met to review the projections and the resolution, and they voted unanimously to make a recommendation of approval to you. I am available to answer any questions. And again, we are requesting your vote today.
Are there any questions for Scott by any of the committee members? Hearing none, is there a motion for recommendation? I'm sorry, Eric.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just take a moment and thank Scott for his work on the socioeconomic projections. Annabelle Bagley, who runs our regional analytics division, did a great job in this. I wanted to say that my first involvement with MAG is back in 1983 doing socioeconomic projections. So this is kind of coming full circle for me. So thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And again, thank you, Scott, for recommendation of approval of item number 7.
So moved.
Moved by Andrew and second by Kevin. Can I have a voice vote of those in the room and those online? And for members participating online, please turn on your cameras and unmute. Those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Now, members, I ask that you please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote. Staff, can you take the roll call vote of the members participating virtually who did not participate in the vote?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please unmute and indicate how you vote. Matthew Williams.
Aye.
Thank you. Crystal Dykes.
Aye.
Thank you. Is there anyone that I missed?
This is Suzanne Jones. Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Carrie Dyrick.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, is there anyone that I missed? Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. Next up is item number 8, which is a draft fiscal year 2024 arterial life cycle program. Here to present item number 8 is MAG Transportation Planner Mark Overton. This item is on the agenda for recommendation and approval.
Well, those are 2 tough acts to follow, so hopefully this isn't too much of a letdown for you guys. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the Management Committee. For those of you who have not had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Mark Overton. I'm new here at MAG and I'll be taking over the management of the ALCP on our side. And I'm pleased to be here today to present this item for action. So before we dive in, here's a quick overview of what we'll be getting into today. We'll give a brief summary of the ALCP before we go into the draft update process and offer a snapshot of some project updates. And then we'll end with some future programming notes before we get out of here. Next slide, please. So the Arterial Lifecycle Program is the financial management tool for the arterial street component of the Regional Transportation Plan and contains a listing of arterial projects funded through Proposition 400. Pursuant to the ALCP's policies and procedures, each year the ALCP is updated to make sure that the program reimbursements and expenditures match up with program revenues. The update consists of updated revenue forecasts, changes to project schedules, modifications to project costs, and adjustments to program reimbursements. All of this is derived from a robust process where we work hand in hand with your staff. Next slide, please. So as many of you know, the ALCP has funded many notable regional projects in the region, excuse me. To date, we've had 97 projects or project segments constructed, with a few more nearing completion. We currently have 58 projects or project segments currently underway, and that just means that they're in various phases of their design, right-of-way, or construction phase. Next slide, please. So as previously mentioned, the LCP includes an updated regional area road fund and federal fund forecast. The latest RAR forecast released by the Arizona Department of Transportation indicates a 7% increase in program revenues over the prior year's forecast. Additionally, the projection of federal formula funds into the program remains unchanged over the prior year forecast. If you take both these funds in the aggregate, there's a net 4% increase in overall projected revenues for fiscal year 2024. So that's a bit of good news. Next slide, please. So now we'll get into a bit of the update process. Back in December of 2022, MAG distributed the ALCP project workbooks to each of our member agencies to update or verify their project schedules and costs. The information returned by each agency was used to generate the Transportation Improvement Program amendments. Among those amendments were proposed changes to 6 projects programmed in the ALCP. These projects were reviewed by the street committee back in February and evaluated with the project change tool. In each case, the new projects were better than the old project. Next slide, please. So once the workbooks were received, we here at MAG work with member agencies for several months to match program revenues and reimbursements so that they align with project needs. I do want to take this opportunity to thank our member agencies, members of your staff, for all the hard work they've done and being super helpful and responsive in working with us in this update. Next slide, please. So looking ahead for fiscal year 2024, we have about 26 projects planned for or already into the enthralls of the construction. This map of the region highlights where these projects are in teal, and we look forward to these projects having a fruitful and productive fiscal year. Next slide, please. So before we get out of here, I want to leave you guys some quick programming notes. First, I want to stress that MAG will continue to have discussions with our lead agencies regarding realistic project delivery within the program timeframe. I also want to point out and acknowledge that the program in its current iteration is ending in December of 2025, and that date is fast approaching. I also want to stress the importance of staying focused on project development, as many things can occur in the right-of-way and design phases that can make projects take longer than they are initially expected to. We found that on average, it takes about 4.5 years to complete a project, and that's only if local money is available. Because this program is based on reimbursements, local money is required upfront to kickstart any project. And finally, we'll be having policy discussions here at MAG and with our member agencies this summer on how to manage federal funding and deal with any surplus as the program enters its final years. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions from the committee for Mark? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Ms. Toth, second by anyone? Second by Kevin Phelps. All right. We have a motion and a second. Can I have a voice vote of those in the room and those online? For those members participating online, please turn your cameras on and unmute. Those in favor, say aye. Aye. Love the echo effect there. For those opposed, say no, say nay. Hearing none. Members, please leave your cameras on until after staff can complete the roll call vote. Staff, can you take a roll call vote of those participating virtually but did not participate in the voice vote?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Matthew Williams.
Aye.
Thank you. Is there anyone that I missed? Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. Next up, item number 9. Item number 9 is the election of officers. Each June, the positions of chair and vice chair are elected by the management committee. According to the MAG committee operating policies and procedures approved by MAG Regional Council, the chair works with members to nominate a manager for the vice chair position, and the current vice chair is nominated for the position of chair. These positions serve one-year terms. In February of 2023, the chair position became vacant and the vice chair ascended to the chair, and a new vice chair was elected to complete the unexpired term. According to the MAG operating policies and procedures, an individual who succeeds to an unexpired term of 6 months or less will serve the remainder of the term and is eligible to serve one additional term. Is there any motion to approve the election of new officers?
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Mr. Banger?
I move to approve Mesa Manager Chris Brady to serve as Management Committee Chair and Phoenix Manager Jeff Barton to serve as Management Committee Vice Chair.
So we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Phelps. You guys are so kind.
Yeah, my apologies.
Can I have a voice vote of those in the room and those online? And for members participating online, remember, please turn on your cameras and unmute. Those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Hearing none. Members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote. Staff, can you take a roll call vote of the members participating virtually who did not participate in the voice vote?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It looks like everyone had their camera on and the motion passes.
All right, thank you. On to item number 10, which is the legislative update. Nathan Pryor, MAG Director of Policy and Government Relations, will be presenting along with John Bullen, MAG Transportation Funding Policy Program Manager. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Management Committee. No surprise today. This presentation is going to focus on recent legislative activity. So since this committee last met, we did see the state legislature go on a break, providing an opportunity for MAG, the governor's office, legislative leadership, and members to have ongoing conversations regarding the extension of the half-cent sales tax for transportation in the Maricopa region. In preparation for the legislature's return to work on this past Monday, June 12th, on Saturday, June 10th, Governor Hobbs stated her support for MAG's position on enabling legislation for that continuation of the half-cent sales tax for transportation in Maricopa region. That governor's proposal was rebuffed by Senate and House majorities. Instead, Senate Bill 1246 with an amendment by Speaker Toma did emerge, among other provisions, seeing 28% for transit versus 40.4 in the regionally adopted plan. Another provision bifurcating the ballot into two questions, one for freeways and arterials and one for transit. Seeing an increase in the legislatively appointed members to the Transportation Policy Committee, moving from 6 to 12 members legislatively appointed. Concern there is undermining our member agencies' participation. Saw the proposed elimination of flexibility between modal categories, prohibition on reduction of lane miles on highways, prohibition on funding for light rail extensions, commuter rail, streetcars, and trolleys, problematic fare box recovery provisions, as well as other provisions. The 1246 is amended, did come up for a vote yesterday. That saw the House pass it 31 to 26, and the Senate it passed 16 to 12. Soon thereafter, Governor Hobbs stated her intent to veto 1246, and this morning, MAG did send a letter from our regional council chairman, Mayor Weiss, to Governor Hobbs requesting a veto. So next steps, we're gauging next steps, seeing opportunities available. The legislature is set to reconvene on July 31st. So we'll take that time to recalibrate, re-engage, and see where we go next. Like to thank Governor Hobbs for working with MAG and supporting legislation that is focused on a solution that will allow us to implement the regionally adopted plan. And as Mr. Zerker mentioned earlier, thank you to our member agencies for your involvement, from your elected officials, yourselves, your government relations staffs, and others. Thank you for all your work during this current legislative session, with more to come. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my remarks. John Bullen is also available, as well as Mr. Zerker, on ongoing developments with the legislature.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee members? This item is just for information, so thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, request for future agenda items. Are there any requests by a committee member for an item on the future agenda? See a lot of shaking heads, so no requests. Next, comments from the committee. Are there any comments or announcements from membership? I do have a couple of announcements that I'd like to make before I open it up to the floor. Reminder that there will be a reception for Eric Anderson following the regional council meeting on Wednesday, June 28th. And also an in-kind work group meeting will begin immediately following adjournment of this meeting. Those interested or information from the group?
Mr. Chair, if I could, just one thing, I think we should recognize Andrew Ching is serving his last meeting with us as a management committee member representing the city of Tempe. I'm assuming starting Monday, you're going to represent the town of Paradise Valley. Okay. So want to thank Andrew for his participation up to today. He's going to take 2 days off, or I'm sorry, up till Friday. Then he'll take 2 days off, and then he'll start on Monday as the manager of the town of Paradise Valley. So thank you, Andrew. And we're happy to not say.
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate it. In the 10 plus years that I've been able to serve on this committee representing Tempe, I've been able to work with a lot of great people as colleagues, and some who have retired or moved on. And it's been an honor, and I'm excited to continue in this new capacity with Parrott. I want to note, although she had to go to another meeting, that Rosa Chowsty, who is Tempe's Chief Deputy City Manager, will be taking over on an interim basis as Tempe City Manager for an indefinite period of time. I'm confident that she will be able to step in here, starting with the next meeting. So work with her. I think you'll enjoy working with her. She's a consummate professional, and she's very eager to join and work more with the region. So Tempe's in very good hands. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. And thank you, Ed, for that. The next meeting of the Management Committee meeting will be held on Wednesday, August 9th, unless we need to meet in July.